And hello, everyone. No intro music tonight. We want to get right into it because we got a lot of episodes to review. It's Phil and Pete, and we're talking season 2 of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, which
Yeah,
I
got a
felt.
season two.
Look at this. I forgot to put Deep Space Nine in the title there of this little thing, but yes. What did you say, by the
Got a
way?
season two.
Hmm.
I said it got a season two.
I forgot to put Deep Space Nine. It got a season 2.
Yes, yes. Well, because you never know. You never know.
Oh,
You know.
oh yeah. You know, back in the day, though, I think shows had a little bit more time to
Yes, especially in
develop.
syndication too. Like
Yeah,
that's an important thing to remember about Deep Space Nine and Next Generation. They were syndicated shows. It's just like whoever wants to pick it up, pick it up. It's not
mhm.
like you're a slave to Netflix or Disney or something.
I feel you. I feel you. Yeah. So with all these Star Trek shows, they take a little while to get warmed up. Most of them, although I think Deep Space Nine is probably one of the better ones as far as already being having some really good stuff early on. And Pete and I, before we came on, we were talking about how season 2 does drag a little bit. Like this is a pretty strong opening, South, um, a bunch of episodes, but it after episode 8 or so, it just kind of really drags until the end. At least for me, it did. So we're gonna talk about it. See how you feel about it, and thank you everybody who's listening, who's watching. Like and subscribe to the page. Thursdays, Strange New Worlds. Get on there. I'm talking Strange New Worlds. That video might be out on a Friday because I got a graduation to go on Thursday. But I will be doing those videos. But we're going to begin with The Homecoming, which aired on, let me see here. I guess this is September 27th, 1993. So now we get a actual beginning of the season air date in September. And it's a teleplay by Ira Stephen Bear, story by Jerry Taylor and Ira Stephen Bear. So got some heavy hitters there, some uh, good Trek writers, and it's directed by Winrich Kobe. So Kira receives a Bajoran earring smuggled out of a Bajoran labor camp, and she goes on a mission to Cardassia or to liberate the prisoners who have been held in contrary to the Cardassian promise that all their prisoners of war had been released. And there, Kira hopes to find Lee Nalas, a renowned Bajoran hero whose return to Bajor would unite the torn world in its hour of need. And what a hell of a little arc here, Pete, because this goes
Hmm.
episodes.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. Like, okay, to be continued, I get it, but to be continued again, man, this shit went on, and it was
Yes.
good too. It was good. I really enjoyed it. Although I will tell you what frustrated me about this episode is that the guy who played Minister Jero, I was like, that's fucking Frank Langella, man. And I looked for his name in the credits and I couldn't find them. And I'm looking on the Wikipedia page now and I feel so vindicated. It's like, oh, he was uncredited. But I mean, yeah, of course, that's like Frank Langella. It's like not recognizing Robert De Niro or something.
I don't think I know who that is. What's his name?
Frank Langella.
Franklin J. Hello?
Yeah, Frank, as in his first name, F R
Yes.
A N K, Langella,
Oh,
Langella.
Mangella.
No, Lan, with an
Langella.
S. Yeah, he played
American
Dracula, man.
stage actor. Let me see if I recognize. Oh, I recognize his face. Yes, from everything. Yes. He's won 4 Tony Awards, 2 Best Leading Actor Awards. Yes.
Hmm.
I'm not good with people's names, but yes, yes, yes. He's been in everything. Yeah, he was the Bajoran. He was the politics side of the whole Bajoran struggle. So, guys, this uh, beginning here is all politics all the time. Okay,
Yeah.
and it is a good lead in from
Hmm.
last season's closer, which kind of it just opened that Pandora's box of not all Bajorans are for the provisional government, Two, Starfleet being close by. Three, any type of peace deal with the Cardassians. So I love how the show just it didn't, as we said many times, it doesn't make anything one dimensional, right? There's many
Mm-hmm.
facets to everything from Starfleet itself. Later in the series, we're going to get more into how Starfleet has its many layers. When
Mm-hmm.
we're introduced, even to Section 31 is introduced in Deep Space Nine. But we get a very good sense of how the Bajorans are not just one layer, and how we have the very conservative Bajorans, we have the more progressive Bajorans, we have different interpretations of the Bajoran faith. I like that even, Pete, in the last episode we did, or the last episode of last season, they Cisco asked Kira about Vedic Win, and she's like, she's a fanatic, she's crazy, she's this, she's that. And then
Mm-hmm.
he asks, so do you think she should close the school? Or do you think she's right about what they should be teaching in the school? And she's like, yeah. To be honest, I think that the Bajoran faith should be taught in the school. So it's cool that even a character like Kira, who is opposed to Win on almost every level, is still three-dimensional enough to be like, but you know what? She does have a point about the Bajoran faith. Maybe we shouldn't be teaching that they're aliens, but they are the prophets.
Right.
So, expert writing as usual with, well, not always as usual, but most of the
Yeah.
time, with Deep Space Nine and its characters. So here, go ahead here, Pete. Give us your thought here on the opening episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine Season 2, The Homecoming.
Yeah, it goes a lot of places. So, yeah, as you mentioned, Kira gets a Bajoran earring, but she gets it from Quark of all people, which
Mm-hmm.
is really strange. But yeah, he's pretty cool about it. He turns it over, and she recognizes it as belonging to Lee Nallis, who is this great Bajoran hero, who is famous because like he killed like a super badass Cardassian, and totally rallied the people around the resistance cause. So we get some really cool shit here. Like I don't know if you've noticed rewatching this, but the show's actually pretty low budget for a science fiction series. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you compare it to like the Disney Plus Star Wars series, like no, like they're reusing those sets over and over. The effects are pretty cheap. And it works because the writing is good, right? You just kind of overlook it. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a pretty cheap show by science fiction standards. But we do get this really cool scene where Kira and O'Brien go to this Cardassian labor camp that's not supposed to exist and get in a total Old West style shootout, release the prisoners. Really embarrassing for Gul Dukat because, he's like, oh my God, we didn't know these places still existed. We're so sorry. But he's such a bastard. He totally knew it existed and he's just, trying to cover his butt. So they break this Bajoran hero out of the camp. And he finds out when he gets back to Deep Space Nine that he's expected to be like this unifying guy on Bajor. Like, oh, you got the religious fanatics, you got the moderates fighting, but like, you're the person that everyone's going to rally around. And he surprises the fuck out of everybody by being like, fuck that. I'm out of here. Like Cartman in South Park. Screw you guys. I'm going home. He tries to actually sneak out through the wormhole. He's like, I'm disappearing into the Gamma Quadrant and I ain't seeing none of you motherfuckers again. But Cisco actually manages to change his mind, but in the process of that, he explains why he feels the way he does. That he'd gotten separated from his crew or something like that, and he came across a Cardassian taking a bath in a lake, who was this big badass dude that he supposedly killed, and he just kind of freaked out and shot him while he was naked. and he
Hmm.
became this hero. And he's like, man, like, I'm not that guy. I'm not this hero. But nevertheless, Cisco convinces him that what people want is not necessarily the reality of the hero, but the image of the hero. They need
Yes.
the idea of somebody who is not divisive. And he's like, it dude, it doesn't matter. Like, everybody loves you. All the other Bajoran leaders are divisive. Like, you're somebody who can bring the people together. So that was a really interesting monkey wrench to throw into the story. Um, but the consequence of that is that Cisco sells this idea so well that the Bajorans decide to sack Kira and make this guy the liaison to Deep Space Nine. So the episode ends with Kira basically losing her job, which is, kind of sad because she's worked so hard to like form relationships with everyone there and be a good representative for Bejor in this situation. And she worked so hard to get this guy back, and the two things just implode. So great ending to the episode. Like, the look on her face is like, fuck, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, poor dude, man. I love that twist because this is an episode I completely forgot. Like it was like watching it for the first time. So all these twists and turns caught me by surprise, and that's a great one. And again, Pete and I before we came on, we were talking about shades of things to come, especially in this season. They do mention even last season they mentioned the Dominion. I think once, maybe twice. Um, so one thing that's a shade of things to come is how Cisco is willing to bend them rules a little bit to get what is needed for peace. And one of these things is just an outright lie. Just lie about it.
Yeah, yeah.
People don't need to know that you were not this great war hero. They need this icon. They need this image. They need somebody to rally behind. So
Yeah,
just do it, man.
yeah.
And
He's kind of
we can
selfish
understand it.
though. He's definitely looking out for his own interests. Because honestly, like, I felt for this guy. It's like, yeah, man, I don't want this shit. I just want to go to the Gamma Quadrant and chill on a beach somewhere. It's like, I can relate to that.
Of
But
course.
Cisco's like, yeah, no, dude, you got responsibilities whether you want them or not.
Exactly. Now, before we go on, look at this, Pete, because you mentioned the budget here. It says that each DS9 episode had a $2 million budget, but most of those figures consisted of fixed costs like actor salaries, studio rental fees,
Right.
etc. So about 300,000 was left over for guest stars, new sets, special effects, and extras. But according to another page here, is that by season 5 and 6, which do look better, by the way. I think a
I
lot of
seem to recall the later seasons looking a lot more spectacular.
oh yeah, I usually Trek fans will say that the Dominion War arc is probably some of the best special effects and etc. for Star Trek in general, and but it got bumped
Mm.
up to about 2 million, or even I think here I see something that said 5 million per episode. So yeah, in the beginning they were not spending much, but like Pete said, the stories is what made the episode good, not necessarily the special effects. And some will argue that a heavy reliance on special effects sometimes makes writers a bit lazy. So
Hmm.
that's why folks can still watch the original series with those styrofoam rocks that they're throwing at
Really
each
cheap.
other.
Really cheap. Yeah.
Yes, but the stories are fucking classic. They're
Exactly.
really
Yeah.
well written, like they're like stage plays, basically. So you forgive the styrofoam rock that Kirk
Hmm.
that gets thrown at Kirk.
Or is like stunt doubles who don't look anything like him.
Oh yes. Oh no, in the Kirk chop, the classic Kirk chop that can knock
Yeah.
everybody down. So yes, this is just television, sci-fi TV. they're not going to have a lot of money for it. But they seem to have gotten a little bit when the show did get its steady cult following, which I think it was around 4 to 6 million people, were watching. It wasn't as popular as TNG, which was upwards to 12 million
No.
viewers or so. But for a spin-off, that's not bad in syndication to get 4 to 5 million people watching every week. That's really not bad at all. But yeah, definitely Lee Nalas is he's screwed up, yeah, because now he is
Yep.
stuck. But in the middle of all this, we're just gonna move right along to the next episode, which is The Circle. This is written by Peter Allen Fields and directed by Corey Allen. Uh, Kira, like Pete said, is recalled back to Bajor. She's replaced by Lee Nalas, okay, at the order of Minister Jarrow in the provisional government. So now Lee Nalas is on DS9. Meanwhile, there's something else going on. There's this political intrigue going on because Odo discovers that the Circle, which we failed to mention in the first episode, it's these
Hmm.
folks that, for the time being, are just doing a lot of vandalism in the on DS9. But we start to find out a little bit more about them. That they're an extremist group, Bajoran extremist group that wants nothing to do with the Federation. Okay, and they are employing violence in an attempt to gain widespread Bajoran support. And the mystery is who is behind the circle. And it gets even thicker, the plot, because
Hmm.
these guys, these circle jerks over here, they're unknowingly supplying weapons. Okay, they're unknowingly being supplied weapons by the Cardassians through this third party.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
don't even know that they are. And ends up this is season 2, folks, so we tried to stay a little bit spoiler free for season 1, but if you made it this far, I imagine either you're watching the episodes along with us or you have seen these episodes already. It ends up that Minister Jaro, surprise surprise, although that wasn't much of a spoiler,
Hmm.
um, is the leader of the circle. Okay, and his motives is that he's seen a lot of these. By the way, I'm using a lot of Jammer here to remind me of these plots here. Jammer reviews, guys, check his page out. Very cool page. Bajorans, he's seen enough Bajoran governments come and go. Okay, and he just wants to have finally order, order. And again, well written political episode. Uh, I like that there are definitely villains on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, people that you look at and say, that's definitely the bad guy. You get the shivers when they walk into the room. But even still, their motivations are totally understandable.
Hmm.
You can put yourself in that person's shoes and be like, you know what? If I were there, I would completely understand what this person is about. Now, the only problem with me with the circle, um, is that storyline of Kira going to the monastery, because she's no longer on DS9. So
Right.
Vedic Baral wants to, get her to be in touch with her Bajoranness. And Vedic Baral, man, oh my God, this actor, like, I don't know if it's the actor or if he was told to act this way. He's like an android. He's less charismatic and human like than Data, Brent Spiner. I don't get him. Well, it's
I
sad.
think he's supposed to be aloof though. Like he's the moderate guy, right? He's not the fanatic. So I think like being chill is like his thing.
Dude, but there's chill and then there's like having a personality, like he just has no,
Right.
it's like, Kira, I really believe that you need to look and see what the prophets
Yeah.
want. Like he just talks in this
I don't know, dude.
tone
My
the
foster
whole time.
parents were Buddhists and they were like that. So that's kind of what he reminds me of.
Oh God, no, it's so boring. And I wasn't sad when he, was written off the series. Um, because he is just really, really, really boring. I'm not a fan of him at all, of his at all. And I don't think him and Nana Visitor have a lot of chemistry, Kira. And so it's hard for me to
Right.
believe that there's this whole passionate, she's fallen in love with this guy, unless you really buy into this idea of opposites
Oh,
attract.
I never really got that feeling. I never felt that they had that kind of thing going.
Oh, they definitely do. They definitely
Okay.
do. And she gets some monastery dick coming up. So, spoiler for you.
Okay.
Yes,
All
there's
right.
definitely some shit going. She gets into this boy.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, she needs it. She needs it.
yeah, she needs to relax. That's the thing with these monastery guys. They come off as
No,
aloof.
actually, the episode I watched tonight, I watched episode 10 tonight, the one with the refugees, right? That's all matriarchal. All the
Yes.
men are subservient.
Oh,
She's like, "You
yes.
sleep with your men," and she's like, "I don't have any men." It's like, "Oh, Kira, come on, man. You need a little
Yes. So
bit."
that's just a ruse, I think. He was just being all like aloof and uncharismatic, maybe to attract more women. Who knows? You do get a little bit of Kai Wynn in this episode, but she doesn't do much. She like stands on a bridge and yells at them and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So one of the few moments where um, Fletcher isn't really used that well on a Deep Space Nine episode.
No, but her presence is actually really strong for like the limited amount of screen time she has. Like just her face, she's so mean.
I
Like I don't know
know.
what kind of person Louise Fletcher is like in real life, but I don't know. I think she must be really nasty to be able to play somebody.
She's one of those actors that like I have this desire, like Louise Fletcher interview, because yeah, I want to
Mhm.
see what she's like in real life, but then at the same time, like I do not want to erase that
Exactly.
image.
You don't want to ruin the illusion.
It's like Cancer Man from
Yeah,
from
exactly.
from
I
from
know
the
because
X
he's so
Files.
nice. He's so
He's like
nice.
the nicest motherfucker ever. Everybody that meets him at conventions, like, oh my god, he's so nice, he's so cool, and it's like, ah, man, like
Yeah,
he's not
you
supposed to
want
be.
him to be a bastard. Yeah.
Yes, he's Cancer Man. So it's like I keep myself from seeing any interviews with this lady, and thankfully she seems to be like kind of a private person. She doesn't do a lot of
Yeah.
stuff, so there isn't a lot to find. So I
Yeah.
will keep Kai Wynn in my mind in her beautiful performance of, like I wrote in my note, Vedic Wynn shows up to be a bitch in less than a minute,
Yeah, exactly.
basically.
Yeah, she has
Uh,
like, I don't know, maybe like less than 2 minutes of screen time, but in those 2 minutes, she's totally nasty.
Yes, yes, yes. Um, Now we get the circle. They do capture Kira, okay, and that's when we find out that Minister Jarrow is the circle, and he's ready to torture Kira to find out what Cisco would do if the circle took control. Okay, um, and that leads to a rescue mission, and that's two action pieces that are actually really good. We failed to mention the one in
Hmm.
Homecoming, which was a pretty
Yeah,
good
there's
action
lots
piece
of
where they go.
shooting in this arc.
Yeah, yeah. They went to the Cardassian prison camp and got the folks out. Her and O'Brien. That was kind of a cool action piece. And this
Hmm.
is the second action piece where they go down and find out where she's being held. Although I thought it was funny that Bashir had to untie Kira first to beam her out, but okay. Bashir's not the best fighter slash savior at the moment. Um, but it ends up that who's behind all this? Cardassians. They're supplying the circle in order to
Hmm.
destabilize the planet.
Yeah,
Okay.
they want the Federation gone,
They
basically.
want the Federation gone. So it's so cool, man. Like stuff like this that they're writing, because it's stuff that, okay, it's happened in the past in history and political intrigue,
Hmm.
but it's one thing that for me, makes Deep Space Nine so current because of after 9/11, after those towers went down, and then America, who's the big star, sometimes I think it sees itself as the Starfleet, the policeman of
Yeah.
the world. Um, but it's no longer, USA versus Russia. It's USA versus who knows who the fuck, you know, and who's actually supplying those people. And what if some of those people aren't really there, are being supplied by the enemy to destabilize something. And, it's like all this stuff that's happening currently with politics is something that Deep Space Nine is talking about back in 1993 when we were still more or less, I mean, we had just come out of the Cold War, Berlin Wall falls, what, 88, 89.
Yeah.
So it's still more or less fresh. I don't think people were thinking of terrorist cells in 1993 or 94 in the same way that they were thinking about them in 2000, in uh, all the different layers that go into setting up governments and nation building. That became
Mhm.
the language of George W. Bush, nation building. And we are not into nation building. Of course you are, but whatever. So incredible that they're writing this stuff way back then, and it's more current now than ever. Um,
Yeah.
and we do get the Kai Wynn going for the power play. Okay.
Hmm.
The dude tries, although I don't know. For me, that was a little bit too melodramatic, where they're standing on the balcony and he's,
Oh, I
trying.
like that. I like that.
It was very Star Wars-ish, so maybe that's why you liked it. It felt
Yeah.
very much like a scene out of Star Wars, and together we will rule in this. And I was like, oh man, this is so not Star Trek. I would have dug it in a Star Wars episode, but or whatever movie, but in Star Trek, it just felt completely out of place. Um, and we do have an Admiral Chakotay, which is mentioned, which is the first officer in Voyager. So that's just a little Easter egg there. And damn, I didn't know it was going to be continued.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Uh,
That was the
but
shocker. Like, are you kidding me? There's more?
yeah, there's more, and it's a really good cliffhanger because they do take power over in Bajor. The
Yeah,
Circle.
well, no, they get the fucking space station to evacuate.
Exactly.
Like
Yeah, yeah.
Cisco is like the fucking strongest defender. He's like, oh shit, time to get the women and children off the
We
station. And
gotta get the hell out of here because
yeah,
the Bajorans are sending a sub vessel to
yeah,
Deep Space Nine because the Circle Jerk has taken over, and in the meantime, they are trying to prove that hey, the Cardassians are behind all of this, so they need time to prove this. So they do evacuate the station, but a group of them stays behind. Okay,
yeah. They
with
run on the skeleton crew, and it,
yeah,
it
which
kind of gave you a sense of the scope of the station because I know. Like, if you watch the show often enough, you can realize that they actually only use about 5 sets. Like,
mm,
they don't use that much, but we have this cool opening sequence where you can see, like, I swear, a real engineer actually designed the look, the exterior look of the station because it looks huge, but I mean, they only have like 5 sets to use, so you
mhm.
don't actually get that scope in it. But when everyone is gone, like, it feels a lot bigger.
I feel you. Yeah, and it looks like this place where you could hide infinitely. So
Yes.
I agree with you. I think they do a very good job with this, better than TNG. Because TNG, as much as I love the Enterprise D, it's a beautiful ship. It's so ridiculously big, and it never
You
felt like
see you see nothing of it. You see,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
the command deck, you see the bar, you see people's quarters and the corridors, and that's
And
about it.
engineering, which is
Yeah,
really
yeah.
small. It looks so small engineering
It's
for
so
a
small.
ship that
I know
size.
Discovery really improved on that shit.
Yes, it did. Although Discovery gets a lot of flack for this one scene in the turbo lift, like the endless turbo lifts inside the ship. Like, how the hell did they have that much empty space inside Discovery? But it was a cool visual effect. But I feel when people say like that was a ridiculous shot. But yes, the space scene in the Tarak Nor, Deep Space Nine station, is much better. But yeah, so we got the skeleton crew. I was gonna say the skeleton screw. The skeleton crew stays back, and they are gonna have to, fend these guys off long enough to get these documents.
Get the message across.
You know. And it's pretty funny though when they're trying to get off in Quark. Poor guy.
Yeah, well, because he's got to take all his latinum.
He's got to take his latinum. Uh, Jake is sad to leave Nog. There's a few cute
That was
characters.
actually one of my favorite scenes in this episode. Like when Nog says to him, like, "Have any two of our kind ever been better friends?" And it was just like, it was so cheesy, but it was so sincere too. It's like,
Hmm.
oh, that was really nice.
I know their friendship is so important in this show. Um, We get Keiko, of course, is upset that O'Brien is leaving. By the way, I just saw Steve Shives. He's a big YouTuber, Star Trek YouTuber. He just did a cool video on Keiko isn't really that bad because she's one of the most hated characters in Star Trek. People call her the nagging wife, the ball and chain, always
She was
upset.
pretty bad in this episode, though.
Yeah, she was really upset. But you know what?
I understand where she's coming from. I understand
Exactly.
where
That's
she's
what I
coming
say.
from.
Like she's way better written in DS9 than she was in TNG, where she did often come off as like just this nagging, like, oh my God, like why is O'Brien even married to this woman type person. But it makes sense in Deep Space Nine, like she had to leave her job behind as a botanist. She had to leave her whole life behind, get stuck in this station in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of a very dangerous conflict, bloody conflict.
Yeah,
Dude, I'd be pissed too. Like you do love your man, but good lord, not even Cisco wanted the job, really. So imagine
yeah.
her. This is not the family-friendly TNG starship, even though I mean they had a couple run-ins with death every week. But hey, who's counting that part? So I get it, and she does have her badass moments every once in a while, like last episode we reviewed, from season one, where she just tells Kai Wynn or Vedic Wynn now to go shove it. I'll teach
Yep.
whatever the hell I want in my school, and that's science, because that's what I do. I teach science. I don't teach about profits. We got Morn. He supports Bajor, okay, during Delilah's speech, okay, so that's sad to see that Morn is on the wrong side of history.
Yeah.
Um, Quark gets his seat sold by Rom, and Bajor
Yeah. Yeah.
the
That was
station.
actually really funny too.
Mhm.
And Odo totally rubs his face in it too.
I know, but I love how they are able to write Quark into this, because he becomes a character that profit is king, but in the end, you see that he's got a heart at the end. He's got a great character arc
Yeah.
where for his initial motivation sometimes for helping is more profit based, but then later you start to see that no, he actually really does like these people. So he does have a heart and really likes these Federation types.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, I think it's also like a commentary on human nature too, because it's not so much that he connects with them on like a deep personal level, but it's like a codependency. Like they're
mhm.
all in the same situation, and he knows like how essential these people are to his well-being, so he feels obligated to reciprocate.
Yeah, see, I feel that too, like now into season one or two, and maybe it's only because I watched the series maybe 5 years ago, so I know the changes that his character goes through. Where in the end, I feel it becomes more than that, which is the
Right.
cool part about his character arc. But right now, yes, it is that codependency, but you get shades of maybe Quark does really feel for these people and does have a heart that goes beyond just the codependency, but it
Yeah.
really gets
Because
to
he does
me.
some pretty shitty things in season two, actually.
Oh yes, for sure, but you see a growth in that, especially. Well, I don't want to jump ahead, but when we get there, we'll talk about it. But there's things that happen to other members of his family, his Ferengi family,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
really make
But
him
I
change.
mean, he does have a nice scene. Well, actually, everyone does, especially Nana Visitor at the beginning of this episode, when they find out Kira is being transferred off the station, everyone
Oh
comes to her
yes.
quarters, and yeah, even Quark shows up. Like, yeah, I'm gonna miss you, girl.
Yes, I had put that up here. Everybody's saying goodbye to Kira, and it's soap opera classic. It's perfect. I like that
Yeah,
scene.
but she is amazing in that scene because she's like,
Mhm.
she's so defensive, and like this is a scene where you really see her guard get let down. Like she's kind of overcome. She doesn't want to leave. Like she's invested a year of her life in this place, and the
Yes,
guy that she fought to bring back is replacing her, and
yes.
she doesn't really know what to do. And she has made all these relationships. So yeah, it's a great scene for Nana Visitor as an actress, actually.
Yeah, that was in the last episode, The Circle.
Right.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
sorry, we moved on.
That's fine. Yeah, they all run
Okay.
into each other.
Yeah.
But we skipped that, and that's a great scene, because it's exactly what you said. She's defensive. She's another one that doesn't want to show that, hey, at the end of the day, this has become more than just my job. I'm more than just a representative for the majority of people. I'm starting to love these people,
Yeah.
uh, and not just one individual. Like we get that her and Dax get very close. But even with Cisco, it's more than just okay. He's my commanding officer. I really respect this person. I really love him,
Hmm.
and um, and it becomes that. No, that's a great scene because that's the whole cast there, and you see, um, it's so cool, Pete, with TV shows when you just get the right cast where
Hmm.
the it seems like the people really love each other beyond the characters that they're playing. So
Yeah.
that just bleeds through. You can't hide that. You can almost tell when off stage the actors don't really like each other, and then they come on and they act like they're friends, but then they get off and they can do a great job at it. But there's an extra something when you see no, these people really love the hell out of each other. I think a great example of this, in fact, is The Next Generation. Because if you
Right.
watch seasons 1 and 2, when that show was shit, like I dare you to watch seasons 1 and 2. It's horrible Star Trek,
I
and it's because
fuck. I
nobody
remember
likes
season
each other.
one really well, actually.
What happened?
I remember season one really well, actually, because that was like a big deal. Like, everyone
Yes.
in my house was watching it, and no, I actually kind of dug it.
Oh, I tried to watch it. I had never seen season 1 before because I started watching TNG when it was already in its fourth or fifth season, and I'd never gone back and watched season 1. I was like, oh my god, what is this shit? It's not the same show that it became. As far as Picard was very stoic. He was yelling at everybody. Everybody seemed like they
Yeah,
hated each other.
he wasn't popular either. Like everyone in my house hated Picard. They're like,
I
dude,
did too.
he doesn't like kids. What's wrong with him?
It took me forever to like Picard. It really did. He was probably one of the last people that I liked on that in that cast. But I don't think he liked anybody. Like he didn't want the job. Speaking of Cisco not wanting the job, he didn't want the job being Captain Picard, and he was like, let me just do this for a year, get some money, and then I'm out. And then a year later, it becomes
Yeah,
2022. He's starring in Star Trek Picard, season 2. So,
I know.
um,
And
go ahead.
I don't know if you've ever seen any interviews with Patrick Stewart, man, but that guy is out there. Like he's nothing like the characters he plays. Like Picard, Charles Xavier, like these characters are these like deep, wise old men, and that guy is fucking bonkers, man.
Extremely bonkers. I know. And some folks complain that his real life influence, changed the character of Picard a little bit because Picard does become slightly more bonkers as in the
Yeah,
movies and even in his last TV show, the Star Trek Picard, than he was written back in the early seasons. But again, the only point I was making is that at least I feel it. Like it doesn't seem like they have a lot of real chemistry in seasons 1 and 2 of Star Trek TNG
yeah.
because I
I
don't think
think they
anybody.
thought they were all signing up for a bomb.
Yeah, and I don't think they liked each other. They literally just didn't like each other that well. And Whereas in DS9, although I don't think the actors knew their characters that well yet in season 1 and 2, but you can feel a love between all these people. Like they all kind of really liked each other to the point where Nana Visitor got married to Sadiq, the character
Oh, really? Wow.
that plays Dr. Bashir. They have a kid together, in fact,
Oh,
or
shit.
two, one or two kids together.
Yeah,
So
he's Syrian, isn't he?
hmm?
Bashir, he's a Syrian, isn't he?
Let me see here. I know he's British and something. He's Alexander Sadiq. He is um, Sudanese. Oh no no
Oh,
no
Sudanese.
no no no. One of
Okay.
his uncles was a Sudanese prime minister. Let me see. Sadiq Al Fadiq. He changed his name to Alexander.
He did, yes.
But he's a Sudanese. Yes, he's a Sudanese. Oh my God. This is his full name. Wait up. His full name is how do you pronounce this? Sadiq El Tahir El Fadil El Sadiq Abdurrahman Mohammed Ahmed Abdel Karim El
Jesus
Fadi.
Christ.
So I don't think that would fit.
Yeah, you can understand the name change. Yeah, it's a
Yes.
bit more
So
simple.
he changed, but he's British born. I mean, he was born in
Yeah,
England.
he's an Englishman.
Yeah, I'll write the name here so you guys can have a fun time with that right there. That's how you say his name. Um, but yeah, they did get married after,
Oh
which is
wow.
kind of weird because they don't. She's not a big fan of him romantically on the show. But anyway, so this last episode, not as much intrigue as in the episodes building up to it, but it's just your closer. It's a lot of action
Mhm.
going on. You got
Yeah,
the DS9 skeleton crew defending the ship but not wanting to kill anybody. They don't want to hurt the
yeah.
Bajorans.
Bashir actually has some good action hero moments in this too.
Who? Bashir.
Yeah, yeah.
Finally,
He
I
takes.
know.
Yeah, I know. He takes like a total group of Bajorans prisoner.
I like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, and the meanwhile, Kira and Dax, they're flying an old ship to get into Bajor, as it's the only way to get a message
That's a
before the
funny
administration.
scene. That is a funny scene.
Yeah.
It's like because I mean Dax is like so nice all the time, and this is the first time you see her actually get a little bitchy,
Yes, because
and
they,
Kira
they
telling
find
her,
this old ship.
yeah, and Kira telling her like just shut the fuck up. I know what I'm doing, and the
Yes.
old man kind of has to like okay suck it up and follow the boss.
Yeah, and they do crash land because they
Yes.
do get attacked or something, I think. Um, and Baral finds them and escorts them into the chamber, and Dax does get a Bajoran makeover, which is kind of cool. Um, and they are able to present the evidence. And of course, Vedic Win, she's so great. She's by your side until I had
Yeah.
nothing to do with this, my child.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, she turns on Gerald fast when the evidence is presented. Meanwhile, on DS9, Cisco does manage to get the Bajorans on there to hear him out and see what is really happening. But one of the Bajorans on DS9 is not with it. He's not feeling it. So he's trying to shoot Cisco, but Lenalis, is that his name? Lenal, whatever. He jumps.
Lean Alas.
Lenalis. He jumps in front of the fire, gets shot down, and yeah, that's the end of his character, which is predictable. That's one thing that kind of sucks, man. When you're gonna bring an element to the show that, like in duet, let's say, like that can really just change everything. Oh man, this person's gonna die or something's gonna happen where they're not gonna. You can't keep him alive because if he's alive, it just totally it's just a different story. So it's like an easy out, just kill him off, and that's exactly what he does. And it does get Nihilus off the hook of not having to live out this fake life as the hero of the Bajorans. But in the Circle's coup, it's very neat. I think this is the weakest of the three episodes because it just all dissolves very neatly. You think um, a group like that, a cell, whatever, a cult that is strong enough to have managed to go on Deep Space Nine, do all the vandalism, do all the attacks, kind of infiltrate the Bajoran provisional government to just like disappear overnight because they found evidence that
They they've caved in so fast.
yeah, that's the only thing that's like, come on, okay. Um, but otherwise, though, I mean, this is great. This is Deep Space Nine at its core, political intrigue
Hmm.
and sectarian. What do you call it? Debates. The uh, disagreements, in et cetera, et cetera. And we do get everybody back on Deep Space Nine. You know,
Yeah.
um, although in the last scene is so great.
Not everybody actually. I do believe this is one of the first episodes where you get this long form storytelling in the fact that I think some people are actually stragglers. Like, doesn't it take Jake a little while to come back?
Uh, Not sure. I think they're back by next episode.
Ooh,
I'm not
I'm not
sure. I
sure
don't
about that.
remember anybody being a straggler because there's not really any reason.
Well, they're going a long ways away though.
Mm, Let me see. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
because the next episode is the one where Dax has her slug stolen, and I
Oh
believe
yeah.
part of the reason that happens is because there's nobody still on the station.
Okay,
So
there we
yeah,
go.
yeah,
Yes.
people don't come back right away. Like it takes a while.
All right. Cool. Cool. I had forgotten that part. I do like the last little scene in this episode. It's another O'Brien saying kind of like that. Was that the captive pursuit, whatever episode
Yeah,
where he's like, "Hey, why didn't you guys catch that on the
yeah, exactly.
security?" And Cisco's like, "Oh, we must have missed it." He has a similar conversation here with O'Brien, where O'Brien's like, this Linal is what Lee Now is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah, Lee Now is his name.
Yeah, this Lee Now guy didn't seem to be all that heroic, and Cisco just shuts him down real quick. Like, this is the story. He was the greatest hero the Bajorans have ever known,
Yeah,
and that is that. There's
yeah,
nothing more to be said about it. So I like that Cisco will keep the memory of this man alive in
yeah. The
the
myth is
circle.
more important than the reality.
Yes, you got to build the myth, man, and it's so cool episodes like this because that's how real life is. I mean, if we look
Yeah,
back at some historical figures, they were flawed, they weren't perfect, and we do have this hero worship of them, and sometimes it's necessary to have that hero worship of them. Do I believe, you know, Harriet Tubman did everything that they say she did, and everything, not really, but I appreciate the icon that she is, and we you just look at her as she's the Moses of the blacks. She got these motherfuckers out of the South and into freedom. And did she have a lot of help? Was she just at home directing things? Probably, and a lot of times. But sometimes a group of people need that image of no, she was leading the charge and getting these people out of the South into the North to escape, their slave masters. So it's perfectly fine.
Yeah,
See,
Jeremiah Springfield, man.
tell me, I'm not sure I know this guy.
The Simpsons.
The
Jeremiah
Simpsons.
Springfield. Yes, yes. He's the founder of Springfield.
Oh, The Simpsons.
Yeah,
Jebediah Springfield.
that's right. Jebediah. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, okay. He's a myth. The
Yes.
controversial truth
He was
we
a
said
pirate. He was a
later
pirate.
proved that Jebediah Springfield is in fact a bloodthirsty pirate, an enemy of George Washington. See, I'm not that deep into The Simpsons to have known that, but that's kind of cool. Yes. So you got to create a myth sometimes. You got to create a myth to just, keep things alive. So let's move ahead here. Episode 4, and that's one that I was telling you when we did the episode Dax Day
Yes,
Back
I know. I
When.
know. As soon as the episode started unfolding, I was like, "Ah, shit! This is the one Phil was telling me about."
Yeah, and it kind of throws a monkey wrench into that whole Dax episode because it seems like okay, maybe
She
they are the
seems
same.
like she can live without it.
Not that she can live without
But
it.
it psychologically damages her a bit though.
Oh
Like
no, I
once
think
once
she
she
was ready to die. Well, she managed to live
yeah.
without it. It's not a safe thing to do to take out the
Yeah,
slug. To
she
take
she
out the
does it
slug.
like a Padme thing.
No, no.
I just lost my will to live.
Yeah, yeah. No, it definitely screws you up because you are one. But I'm saying it throws a monkey wrench on that Dax episode because it kind of proves that hey, maybe if she had really killed the dude or her the former host had killed the dude, I think Dax would have been responsible because this episode
Right.
kind of shows that yes, they are
Well, yeah,
this.
but I said that already. I was like, yeah, it could
Yes,
totally be
no, I agree with
responsible.
you. But that episode was kind of ambivalent about it,
Also,
and
the
it's
the
like
slug is kind of mean, man.
yes.
When the dude takes it in, he's like, "Yeah, I'm still Dax, but I'm still this other guy too." And fuck you, Cisco.
Yep, yep, yep. Yeah, no, that slug, and that's why I think to get that slug, you got to go through a lot, which is what Cisco is pretty much telling the guy, and Dax is telling the guy. It's like it's not easy to be picked to have this
Yeah.
slug in you. You got to have a strong personality, otherwise the slug is just gonna, or the symbiote. Look how racist we are. The symbiote is going
Cisco calls
to
it a slug in the first episode.
is gonna take it over. So
Yeah.
this episode premiered on October 18th, 1993. It's a teleplay by John Welpley and Robert Hewitt Wolf, who's written a lot of Star Trek too. Story by John Welpley, directed by Les Landau. So a severe plasma storm leads DS9 to be temporarily but completely evacuated. So I don't know, man, because look, it's like there's a second evacuation. Were the people back? I don't know, but there's
No,
not
no,
really.
they hadn't come back yet. They
So
hadn't
they
come back yet.
evacuated the ones that did come back. I don't,
No, I think there's a plasma storm, but that keeps people from coming back. I think like they all left and they can't come back because of the plasma storm.
all right. Well, anyway, so the senior officers are there. They remain on board. So after the evacuation, an unjoined trio named Varad, played by John Glover, and a small band of mercenaries gain access to the abandoned station and hold the officers hostage. Varad
Yeah.
has come to steal the Dax symbiote from Jadzia, which he believes is rightly his, and damn the consequences that Jadzia will die within hours of the operation. So, yeah, pretty much that's it, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I really don't know what to think about this one. I mean, I enjoyed it. It was an intriguing episode, but I don't know if I could call it good. You know what I mean? Like there are so many questions that get raised that don't really get answered. But I like that they tried to do something with the trill concept because the idea is okay. Well, the the symbiote or the slug or whatever, like that's Jadzia, that's Curzon, And if it goes into this other guy, and I do like this actor, by the way,
I
John
guess I
Bluntwood.
guess the name of the symbiote, is it called Dax because it's
Yeah,
Curzon
yeah, the
Dax?
symbiont's Dax. The symbiont is
Yes,
Dax. Yeah.
yes,
So the idea is if the symbiont goes into somebody else, then it's still like that person. But this guy is a
yes.
total asshole, right? Well, maybe I'm being a bit too kind here, but I mean, I think he's just like
He's
a bit
insane.
fucked. He's fucked up. He's fucked up, is what he is. He's
Yes.
not so much an asshole. He's just very mentally ill and depressed, and should seek counseling. But he
Oh,
manages to
my
get the
son.
slug, right? He gets the slug in him, and you think, okay, well, when the symbiote bonds with him, he's going to be Dax, and he's going to realize how wrong he is. But that doesn't happen. His personality is actually dominant, and he's talking to Cisco. He's like, "Yeah, fuck, I remember you, brother. Like, we were old drinking buddies. We had all these good times together. But I'm also this guy, and this guy is telling you to step off, motherfucker."
Yeah, I uh I feel that too. Like for me, this episode was okay. Like I have here on my note that so far the premise is just okay. It's like uh it's not something that interests me very much. Where this fucking slug ends up. I
Yeah.
do like that Cisco beats the shit out of some Klingons.
I
Um,
do too. Yeah, the Klingons are a huge part of this episode because that's like
mhm.
the Trill's crew, right? He's a
Yes,
fucking
and
wimpy. He's a wimpy little pussy, so he's got to hire some muscle, right?
yes, and Quark is the one that lets him in, but nothing really happens to Quark afterwards. Um, so because apparently,
Yeah.
you know,
Speaking of Quark being a bastard, yes, this is one of the
yes,
episodes
but he
where
never
he
gets
is.
any real repercussions for anything that he does because he did something terrible in season one. I forgot now, but he let somebody else in that almost killed everybody. uh, and then they just kind of forget about it. But Cisco still stands on his thesis that each Trill is a different person, so I guess he doesn't. He still believes in what he stood for in Dax, but in the episode Dax. But I don't know. For me, it's like this episode proves that they kind of continue to be one person and just with augmented personalities to the next
Yeah,
host.
I mean, a major problem I had with this was that you would think that the symbiote would be more concerned about Jadzia, right? Because like it was bonded with her for a certain period of time. You would think that the symbiote would be like, I was kind of hanging with that chick for a few years, and she's gonna die. Like, I don't think this is right. So, yeah, I think this episode had a certain amount of fails in terms of logic.
Yeah, but you can't. Well, I mean, but the symbiote can't really do anything about it because they cut it. It's cut out and it's just put into the next guy. I mean, unless it shuts the guy's organism down or something. But I don't know if symbionts have the power to do that.
Hey,
Um,
you would think that it would have like a certain amount of assertiveness, though, like to be able to say like, "Hey, fuck, I didn't want this. There's a procedure to this," and I think that actually would have made for a better episode if the symbiont had been the hero.
oh man, yeah, but I don't know if that's within Trek canon, as the canon
Okay,
lords. The
yeah,
canon
not my
lords.
area of expertise.
Oh, it's trust me, it's not mine either. But I'm just making fun for the Trek fans that are listening because the canon wars are real. Similar to, I'm sure Star Wars didn't have as much uh what do you call it media, you know, before the new stuff. So I think
Right.
people are not as gung ho about the canon, although they really got butthurt over Luke Skywalker having a bad day. Um, but Star Trek has so much that came before, and the gatekeepers of Star Trek and canon, they'll come for your head, Pete, if you say something like that. There's a symbiote
Okay.
fight back. Even though I mean they totally bypassed the fact that the original Trill looked nothing like Dax. The reason Dax looks the way that she did, by the way, is and they redesigned the Trill is because they said this girl's hot.
Yeah, yeah, she is. She is really hot.
uh, because before, let me see. Look, if you look at the Trill before the Trill in TNG, where's Trill TNG? They look like this, and this is actually an embarrassing episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, um, which we will talk about when Dax has her lesbian kiss in the later
Oh,
seasons.
she can't be a lesbian. She's gender neutral.
She's gender neutral, but she definitely has a lesbian kiss. But this is what the original Trill looked like, you
Okay.
know. And then they just totally said, you know what? Oh, there you go. There's a test. Oh, that's a cool picture. I never saw that before. So there's a test picture of Terry Farrell with the original makeup, and they're like, "This girl's hot, man. We're not gonna cover her face up
Yeah.
with these ridges when we can just kind of put the little dots down her body, and she can look wonderful." There you go. There's another
Yeah.
Trill right there from TNG time. And I think it would have kind of it's the ridges, man. It's too much like the Romulans. It's too much. Well, no,
Well, all Star Trek aliens are like that. Like, dude, I used to teach this
yes,
guy. He was
a little
he
ridge.
yeah, he went into astronomy, right? That was his university major, but Brazil has no space program, so he went into economics. But seriously, most of our classes we talk about aliens and like what they would look like, and this was his favorite topic. He's like, dude, in Star Trek, like you're an alien because you got pointy ears or ridges on your nose or
Yeah.
spots on your face. Like that's what they come up with.
Yes. What Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson has a great little episode on that where he talks about what aliens, what's the best depiction of aliens in movies. His favorite is actually that movie, The Arrival. He's like,
Yes, yes, because it's like a gaseous form, isn't it?
yeah, it's like chances
Yeah,
are aliens are going to look more like that than anything out of Star Trek. We understand Star Trek is for budgetary reasons, although there is an in-universe explanation for it. And I think it's an episode of the original series where's it, the original series or Enterprise? Anyway, I may be confusing it, but apparently there's this original race that
yeah,
seeded the universe. So that's why a lot of the alien races look the same. They have this humanoid
yeah. It makes sense.
look to them. So that's the in-universe explanation for we just don't have money.
Yeah,
Which is what's cool about new Star Trek. I love the end of Star Trek Discovery season 4, where they finally met that alien race that not only looked completely alien, it it communicated in a completely alien form. It communicated
yeah,
through was it chemicals and stuff?
yeah.
Uh,
Pheromones.
yes, which was so cool. That was like, uh, that's a Star Trek that we couldn't have had, 30 years ago because there's just no way to produce that in a
Yeah,
believable way.
Discovery's got a good sized budget, man. That show looks nice.
Oh, they do, and especially this new show now, Strange New Worlds. It's got a big budget. It looks very beautiful. So, yeah. So apparently, the Trill is just the host. I don't know what exactly why it's so important that this, how it is that the Trill or the symbiote, I should say. I guess the aliens are the Trills, and the symbiote is just the slug. I don't know
Yeah.
how they managed to eventually jump into somebody, and they never go into the whole backstory. At least I don't know.
No, this has never really been adequately explained. I think it's just like a bad idea that they got stuck with.
Yeah, they got stuck with it, and they're like, okay, they did have a kind of a cool episode in Discovery where they went to the Trill planet, and they try to explain it a little bit more. But
Right,
who was the first slug or the first Trill that said, "Hey, I think I want that slug in me"? Uh,
right.
it kind of reminds me of the X-Files episode where Scully almost gets a slug in
Yes,
her.
yeah, yeah.
But that was kind of a forced slugging right there. So maybe that's how it
What?
happened. Maybe Scully is the
Yeah,
first
maybe,
Trill.
maybe. Well, what one thing I did really like about this episode though was like how depressed Jadzia gets when she loses her.
Yes, I was gonna get to that. That was really great acting. She just was. She was empty. It's like
Yeah,
a
and it's
part.
like the thing is like if you had a complete life up until this point, but it's a juxtaposition, right? I know I'm actually advocating on behalf of this episode when I've spent most of our time talking about it, saying what I didn't like about it, but there were good things.
Mhm.
And one thing is the juxtaposition of the two Trill characters. Because
Yeah.
this guy, he feels empty because he didn't get chosen, he wasn't one of the chosen few, and he feels like Jadzia stole something from him.
Hmm.
And on her behalf, like this is something she worked her whole life for, and it elevated her to a new level. And when it's gone, she's like fucking destroyed.
Yeah, it is, and it's and it plays a little bit on these themes of body manipulation and losing parts of your body. I know there's folks that when they lose an arm or something, it's like they
Yeah,
can still feel the arm there for a while, even though it's not there,
yeah,
and how that could just make you feel empty. Or if you go even deeper, women who have breast cancer and have to have
yeah.
their breast, what is that, what's it called, a mammosectomy?
Mastectomy.
Yes, mastectomy. And it's like it just you lost an essential part of you. Or imagine if a dude, you get Wayne, John Bobbitt's, um,
Well, he
you know
got it back though.
he got it back, but it's still, like it's an essential part of
He
you.
did a porno to prove it worked.
Oh, nice, good for him.
Yeah,
So it's that gets into interesting issues, especially because Dax, within the trans community. Speaking of another trans, there's a really good YouTuber called Jessie Gender. She's a trans woman that does a lot of really good YouTube Star Trek reviews. I watch her videos a lot, and I didn't get the connection between the Trill and trans people. They really connect with these characters of the Trill.
in Discovery, it's pretty flagrant.
Yes, now it's pretty flagrant, but I only started watching her around the time Discovery came out. So I had never made that connection before of, oh, wait, and especially in Deep Space Nine, they use it as an allegory for trans folk.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. There's that scene in season one where like everyone's checking Dax out, right? And she's like, "Oh, I haven't been a woman in so long. I forgot how much attention I receive. It's nice, right?"
exactly,
So
exactly. And
yeah,
we're going to get to, you're in episode 10, so you haven't gotten to that episode Blood Oath yet. That's one of the best.
yeah,
That's a really great Dax episode where she's got an oath with the Klingons that she made as Curzon. And when the Klingons show up and they're like, she's a woman, but is she really a woman? She's Curzon. So there's a lot of these issues that this episode, it doesn't go deep in, but it touches. So there's
yeah,
conversation that you can have based on that. For me, like, that is the strongest part of this episode is
yeah,
Harry Farrell's performance and what happens to her when she loses that essential part of her being. She's no longer herself now, even though it's still the same body.
yeah,
So very powerful stuff there that they did.
yeah.
That
It's a flawed episode, but it's also really
it's what? I lost you there.
in all areas, but
Uh-oh.
it shoots for the moon, and it grabs half of it.
Yeah, exactly. And the other highlight of this episode is just Cisco being a badass. When Cisco says you'll be
Yeah,
seeing
yeah,
us
beating the
again,
shit out of Klingons.
yeah, beating the shit out of Klingons. And when Cisco says he's gonna see you again, like, just shit your pants right there, because
Yeah,
He's like, we'll be seeing each other again. And then the fact that he is not like, do not go, do not think Cisco is bluffing ever, because he tells the dude, I'm gonna shoot your ass. And Vera's like, you're not gonna shoot me. You're gonna and risk losing the symbiont. And Cisco's like, okay, bam.
Yeah,
And do not call him Benjamin. And do not call his bluff. Just don't
yeah.
do it. But the so you do get some nice Cisco as a badass moments, and it keeps getting better with Cisco and his badassness.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah. I mean, going right back to when he punched out Q. Like,
yes,
let's fight. Let's have a boxing match. Like punches him in the gut. Fight
well,
over.
I mean, for me, it just goes back to episode 1 where, oh, here's the captain that you all love and adore, Picard. I hate this motherfucker. He's just not for me.
Yeah,
But the real badass Cisco is when he shaves his head and gets that goatee. Then it's business. That's, I think, season 4 or so. When he gets that
right.
bald head, because they didn't want to do that, Pete. Because I think he was on this show, something for hire, Spencer for Hire. He was like
Spencer for Hire. Yeah, he got a spin-off. He was the star of his own spin-off, actually.
yeah. And the reason that they didn't want his bald head goatee look is because they didn't want to get character confusion. So
Right.
they
Well, who
let's
the fuck saw that show though?
I never heard of it before in my life. So
I
apparently,
remember. I remember when it was on. I never
yeah.
watched it though.
But that's pretty much why they did it. They were like, okay, grow your hair out a little bit, cut the goatee. But then they're like, you know what? Get that goatee back, shave that head, and then you get a different Cisco, man. That's
Yeah,
when it's like Cisco for real.
I
Space
know.
Jesus with a gun.
I
Um,
know.
but anyway, so yeah, that's about
You're
enough on this episode. Invasive
yeah,
Universe,
yeah.
decent
You're taking
episode.
the next one, dude. You're taking
Oh
this.
yeah, Pete said he fell asleep, guys, during the
Yeah,
Cardassians.
yeah.
And I can understand because it's a very slow episode. I actually kind of liked it, but it is a pretty slow episode. Uh, it's more of a moral and political conflict. It kind of has a neat ending. But basically, what happens is, Bashir and Garrick, they're having this nice talk at the start of the episode. So that's always nice to see. And then this Cardassian walks in with Bajoran clothes, okay,
Hmm.
with this Bajoran couple, and he bites Garrick when Garrick tries to talk to him. So we find out that this boy was a Cardassian war orphan, which I like that. They broadened this whole
Hmm.
scope of the war. That the Cardassians left some people behind, and the Bajorans took these Cardassians in and raised them as Bajorans. Okay, um, and that opens up the moral question. Here's the moral question, which is it right for this child to be raised by Bajoran, but not just raised by Bajoran, raised to hate his own people? Because
That's the crux that I got before I fell asleep. It wasn't so much Bajorans raising Cardassians. It was the fact that the sole purpose of it was to actively brainwash them against their own people.
exactly, exactly. So it starts out. Um, this boy's name is Rugal. Okay, he bites Garrick's hand. Um, and so from then we start to get this question of, hey, should we, Goldukat finds out about this kid right away. He gets information fast, and he wants the kid to come back to Cardassia. He's like, he belongs with his people, so that becomes an issue now. So that's the political side of it, is that, hey, we want this kid back. There's a great scene, by the way, before he fell asleep, where Cisco reams Bashir out for interrupting his call because he wants to question Gul Dukat about leaving kids behind on purpose. And Cisco's like, if you ever interrupt me again, I love scenes like that. And Bashir apologizes to Cisco, and Cisco says, "Look, your questioning was the highlight of my point, the high point of my day. Just don't do it again." Um, and then meanwhile, you get little character beats. It's nice, the O'Brien is with Keiko. They kind of take this boy in a little bit. And so here's a good Keiko scene because O'Brien, we know, is very racist against Cardassians. He really hates them. And he really doesn't want this Rugal to be playing with this little girl. And Keiko was like, "Man, what you just said there is like horrible. That's not what you want to do. Like, we're past that. Okay, you can't judge a whole race of people based on
Yeah.
the acts of some. So you do get a little bit of that going on, but the political side of this is confusing, I think. But whatever. It ends
Mhm.
up that they do find this kid's dad. Okay, um, and they bring him to the ship. Uh, and really what it was is that this the kid's dad is a political opponent to Gul Dukat, and Gul
Okay.
Dukat had planned all of this way back when. He had planned for this kid to be left as an orphan, so later the dad would have to find him and bring him home and humiliate this guy Padar, politically.
Right.
uh, but it kind of turns on Gul Dukat, okay? Because in this part, I will be honest with you that I forgot. Let me see. Well, it just doesn't become politically interesting for Ducat to try to shame this guy. He does end up taking the kid back with him, um, and I would have to look at the plot synopsis here to really remember Pete because
Right. But what I want to know is like, because honestly, like, it wasn't that the episode was that terrible. It was just that I was fucking tired, and yeah, I zoned out. But what I was curious to know is like, there was the implication that the Bajorans were abusing this kid. Like, did anything come of that?
yes, which is they took the kid away. I mean,
Okay.
nothing came of it as far as let me see here. Let's see. Um, Here we go. So back on the station, Padar arrives to greet Rugal, but the boy does not remember him, and he calls him a Cardassian butcher. But Padar wants his son back. Uh, so they have a formal tribunal, okay, which is headed by Cisco, who wants to be a neutral arbiter. Dukat attends the ensuing hearing. Meanwhile, on Bajor, Garrick and Bashir, yes, I had forgotten about this part. They track down the woman who took Rugal in at the orphanage, who remembers that a Cardassian woman attached to Terek Nor bought Rugal to her. Bashir interrupts the hearing, alleging that Regal's discovery was part of a conspiracy planned by Dukat all along, that Dukat ordered one of his subordinates to leave Regal behind, knowing that the boy would one day be found, and that as a result, Pudar would be humiliated. So the plot having been exposed, Dukat storms out of the room. Cisco awards custody to the Cardassian father, who reassures Cisco that Dukat will never reveal what happened now because he too would be humiliated. It's kind of like, what? So apparently,
Yeah. Holy shit, that sounds like a Steven Seagal movie, man.
um, and one thing that's kind of interesting about it is that Garrick and Bashir are trying to find this information out, and we get to know that Garrick knows a whole lot. He knows how to work these old
Yeah.
computers. He knows how to fix that. And Bashir's like, man, how do you know so much about Ducat, and how do you know so much about how to? I thought you were just a tailor, like you're fixing computers and databases and finding
Yeah,
files
he's
that
not
were
just a
deleted.
tailor.
Um, and Garrick just smiles and tells him to notice the details, because you can tell that Garrick really does not like Ducat. So what's the history between these two? So yeah,
Yeah.
the ending is kind of convoluted. I guess the embarrassment would have been that he left his son behind, but his son, I guess, was
Yeah. I
stolen.
mean,
That's the thing. I
yeah.
think Garrick got this woman to steal the son, and I don't know. I don't get how that embarrasses him. It's like somebody stole my son, and uh, Now he's
No, I
fine.
think the embarrassment is that his son was raised by Bajorans.
Oh, I guess, but we still know that he's raised by Bajorans because now he's with Dad. I guess in Ducat's plot was to, I think the embarrassment would have been that he was left behind because the Cardassians have this whole get the orphans out of Cardassian fund going on. Like they didn't want this to happen, and that's kind of an embarrassment for them that even
Right,
happens. So the fact that this political ally would have left his son behind after the war would have been a political embarrassment. So
right.
I don't know. It's convoluted. Like I was into
Yeah,
this episode for
we
about
should
like
call this episode the Kardashians.
the Kardashians.
It's that
Uh,
convoluted.
Yeah, because I thought it did really well up to a point. Because I liked the whole
Hmm.
moral. The moral intrigue was more interesting than the political intrigue. Because
Yeah, I was mostly interested in the child abuse. Like, are these guys like fucking abusing this kid? Like actively turning him against his own people? Which actually, even before I fell asleep, I figured, yeah, they totally are.
no, they
Obviously,
totally
that's
are,
why. Yeah,
and I think it's
the Cardassian aspect didn't interest me at all.
nah, and I think that's why I zoned out. And the deliberations are like off screen, which is kind of
Right.
a cop out, because that is an interesting deliberation. Because dude, I mean, he was raised by these parents. They do love him very much. This kid's got to go back to this, uh, what do you call it? To this planet, this whole life that has nothing to do with him. With this guy that, who the hell is this guy? This kid's not young. He's old. He looks like
Yeah,
he's
he's
about
like
17
13.
or 18. So what were those deliberations like? Who would have, how did they come to that conclusion that the best place for this boy is with his people? I think he's going to be mentally fucked. But it's a good
Yeah, there's
question.
no good outcome for this kid.
There is no good outcome, and it does go into. I mean, as I was watching this, I'm thinking of parallels with sometimes uh, adopted kids, kids from a different
Yeah.
culture who are raised by parents who may teach that kid that, look, you're with us now and that culture is beneath you. And, there are parents that do that. So,
Hmm.
or don't teach the kid about his own culture. Um, so I thought that was interesting. Angelina Jolie, here's looking at you, I guess.
Yeah, there's a big lawsuit going on in the United States right now. A chick is suing the school board in Michigan because she claims that she's a white chick and she's claiming that her black son was taught critical race theory, which I don't think is possible, but this is her claim,
Mhm.
and it's turned him against her.
Oh wow.
Yeah, yeah, no, look it up, dude. It's a real thing.
Oh my god. Yes. So there you go. See, there's Deep Space Nine being current again. I just know if I don't see how the whole political embarrassment plot is really that interesting. But yes, that part was cool. You know, um, because what does it mean to be somebody? That's a big question, I guess, for big
Yeah, well, how
philosophical question.
responsible are you for the actions of your ancestors?
That's another question too. You know, and the and self hatred.
Yes, yes, exactly.
I well, we talk a lot about this within the black community, but there's white folks that feel that sometimes they have this too, white guilt. Like, oh my
Oh,
god, I can't believe.
liberal white guilt. Liberal white guilt.
Exactly, liberal white guilt. Oh my God, well, I can't believe we did. And it's like, God, get over yourself.
Yeah.
So it does bring the first 20-25 minutes of this episode was digging into some really touchy issues and doing it in a pretty spectacular way. But then once the
Hmm.
dad comes, it looked like it was going to go to the next level, but then it just kind of devolved into Gul Dukat just trying to beat his political rival. and
Mhm.
I think I phased out a little bit. So not a bad
Yeah, and it was
episode.
kind of a waste of Goldacott too. Like normally, whenever he's in an episode, it's on, and this is just
Exactly.
like,
In this
dude,
one,
you kind
he
of
came.
just yeah.
In this way, he came away kind of, like a quick loser. It really didn't go very well. And now we're going to get to the last episode tonight, folks, which is another one that's a little controversial. It's called Melora.
Best scene in Deep Space Nine I have seen so far.
There you go, Melora.
The Klingon restaurant, man. Do you want the
Yes,
rock or the rock?
yes, and the opera singer, the Klingon opera singer, who
Yeah.
shows up again, I believe. I think Dax is a real fan of his. So Ensign Melora, played by Daphne Ashbrook, an Elysian woman confined to a wheelchair due to her homeworld's lower natural gravity, is temporarily assigned to DS9, bringing with her a chip on her shoulder and a defensive attitude that the fascinated Bashir instantly finds challenging. But I think Bashir would find like
Yeah,
anything.
it's like she's easy, man. She's easy.
She's an easy lay, man. You would, you know. Meanwhile, an old friend that Quark testifies against, Peter Crombie, and had sent to prison years ago, comes to the station and threatens to kill the Ferengi barkeep. Oh, I forgot all about this B plot. It must have not been that interesting. But I didn't think this episode was that interesting either. But
I didn't think the episode was interesting, but it had some amazing scenes.
yes, it did.
And it was a very good Bashir episode too. Like, but first of all, finally he's not pining after Jadzia. Like he's like, okay, new pussy on the station, I'm chasing that. And he gets it. He gets it. Like, fuck, finally, dude. Like he's not a bad looking guy. I mean, he's a pretty handsome man, but he can't get any because he looks kind of desperate the way he chases it. And he does here too, except this chick is like fucked up 6 ways from Sunday, so she's grateful
This is
for
this is
any
your type
attention.
of girl, Peter.
Yeah, yeah. So because she's so fucked up, she's like totally glad for the attention, and things work out for them for a little period of time. But I got to tell you, my favorite thing about this episode is the Klingon restaurant. As soon as Bashir says that, like he asks her out on a date, he's like, "Yeah, there's a new Klingon restaurant on deck. You want to go?" And she's like, "Yeah, okay." And then they go, and they're serving worms and shit. And it turns out his date can actually speak Klingon, right? So Bashir orders the food, and they get served a bunch of worms, and then she starts talking to him in Klingon. It was like, "Rock, rock, rock, rock," and, and the Klingon smiles. He's like, "I like a lady who knows what she wants," and she's like, "Yeah, I can't stand half alive rock."
Yes.
That was the best part. Like I forget everything else about this episode, but that was so funny.
No, this is absolutely my favorite Klingon dude, this guy here. And there's a scene with Dax singing along with him. He pulls out the accordion, does a little bit of Klingon. Because we hear so much of Klingon opera, like the mention of Klingon opera on Star Trek.
Yeah,
It's like this kind of the running joke. And it's great
yeah,
to finally hear it. And I like it way
yeah.
better than the Vulcan happy music and even the Bajoran synthy happy music. I could
Oh my god, the Bajoran music is the worst.
is the worst. Gok Tech all. So I could definitely. There you go. There they are. I would chill to some Klingon opera in a minute. I got into it. Okay, there you go. Klingon Pop Warrior. What is But yes, I love this dude. Whoever this actor is, he did a great job here being the Klingon
Yeah,
chef galore. And it's cool to see again. Always keep talking about the improvements that DS9 made to the Star Trek universe. And one of them is the Klingons. As much as I do love them, and TNG has some great Klingon episodes, but it's still in that very archetype of the Klingons are this barbaric warrior race, and they just sit around in these dark rooms and yell at each other. It's like, oh God, it gets a little boring after a while. And DS9 shows that, hey, look, there's a jolly Klingon. He's still got his Klingon side to him, but he's a
Yeah,
big old jolly Klingon who likes to cook and sing, and he's lovable. And we have Klingon scientists, and and then the Klingons become a very big part of DS9 moving forward, especially because Worf shows up. Um,
yeah,
and it just expands this race. It becomes more than just this a very tunnel vision of what a Klingon is. So this is one of my favorite Klingons here. But
yeah.
go ahead. What
Uh,
else did you like about this other than the funky no gravity sex?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, this aspect is a bit weird because, like, it was obviously trying to make a commentary about disability, but, well, okay. Did you ever see that movie with Riz Ahmed where he went deaf? What was it called?
Oh, the
Uh,
Sound of Fury or something like that.
yeah,
I
yeah. The
ended up
Sound of
never
Metal.
watching.
The Sound of Metal. The
Sound
Sound
of
of Metal.
Metal, yes.
Right. So a huge problem I had with that movie is that it kind of looked down on people who tried to overcome their disabilities. And I think this kind of did the same thing, but not in the same way. Like the context it was framed in, like her position was a lot more understandable. Because I mean, I think like if you're deaf, like I'm a music fan, I want to fucking hear. Of
Hmm.
course, I'm going to try and be able to hear if I go deaf. But in her case, it was a little different because if she adjusts to normal gravity, then she can't go back to her home planet. So she is actually sacrificing who she is. But yeah, I really dislike this mentality that trying to overcome your disabilities is somehow betraying yourself, which is how a lot of people see it. I mean, I think if there's something you can't do, you should try and do it, right? Even if it's like not being able to see, not being able to hear, whatever. Um, and in this case, it's not the same thing because, like, she's like, if I give this up, then I can't go home.
Hmm.
But the metaphor is very clear. Like it wasn't subtle.
Yeah, and it didn't help that they made her into a complete bitch for like the first half of this episode. I mean, she's eventually she um, you warm up to her, but it took Bashir, kind of mansplaining,
Yeah,
uh, why she's being such a bitch, and to uh just trust people, and you're in Starfleet. You got to the whole idea of Starfleet is that we aren't all capable of doing everything. You can't do it on your own, and you can't let your disability you can't wear your disability on your what do you call it, on your sleeve.
on your sleeve. Yeah,
Yeah, and okay, I guess they're trying to get a positive message out of there where here in Starfleet we don't care if you can walk or not, but it's done in such a backhanded way where it's kind of showing that it kind of makes it seem as if people with disabilities do have chips on their shoulder,
hmm,
and they are always going to be like, leave me alone, I can't walk or I can't hear, and I don't want your help, and et cetera, et cetera. And I've met people with disabilities, and they're, well, at least the majority of the ones I've met are the complete opposite. They're just like, whatever, like
oh yeah.
can you just grab my wheelchair so I can go up this escalator faster than waiting for the elevator? Yeah, sure. Boom, we're up. Um, and it is what it is. I've never met someone with a
I
disability
have
who.
never met a bitter disabled person.
No, in fact, they seem to be less bitter than us folks who have
Yeah,
all our body functions,
yeah,
everything
exactly.
functioning. and they're looking at us like, you're seriously complaining about that bullshit? I have
Yeah,
no legs.
yeah, yeah.
You
No,
know?
no. I got a friend. His name is Blind Mark. That's what
Hmm.
everyone calls him, Blind Mark. And yeah, he's so blind and plays in the Dayglow Abortions. And they did a tour in Europe. And when he came back, I asked him, like, dude, like, did you get a sense of being in a different place? And he was so chill, man. He was like, oh yeah, man, birds, they tweet different. And I was like,
Oh,
what the
cool.
fuck, man? Like, like he's aware that he's blind, obviously, but it's not a chip on his shoulder, right? Like
Yes.
he embraces the fact that his other senses are stronger.
Yes, yes. And I think that's where this episode falters a little bit. And especially when you get to this idea that, okay, supposedly we're in a far future where humanity or humanoids, I guess, because she's an alien, have gotten past all this bullshit. So, why would she have a chip on her shoulder
It's
if
a
she's.
bit regressive. It's a bit
Yeah,
regressive, her
yeah.
attitude, yeah.
Which is what I liked about going back. I'm mentioning Discovery a lot tonight, but with the what's her name, Adira, the what I was gonna say bipolar character, the non-binary character.
Yes. Yeah.
um and some folks were like, oh, why did they have to mention that she's non-binary? Because there's this quick scene, it's like a minute, if that, where
Yeah.
Stamets is like, oh, and Adira is really good at these calculations, she can do it for you in like 10 minutes and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Don't
and then
refer to me as she. Yeah.
yeah, she says, oh, call me, I don't see myself as she or he. And then he's like, okay, them or they. Boom. And some people are like, oh, why would they even have to mention that? Okay, that's obviously for the audience, but at the same time, they did it in the right way where she didn't make an issue of it. Oh my God,
Right.
I'm here in the future and I don't know if people are going to accept me as a non binary. No, it's like, okay, you want to be called they, you're they. So that was for the audience, okay, not for Stamets to understand what non-binary people are.
Yeah.
So in this episode, it wasn't for the audience. It was for this bitch, and
Yeah.
for the other characters to kind of wrap their heads around the fact that she is in a wheelchair and she needs all this extra help apparently, and it's like, so I think it's a failed opportunity there to show a disabled person being capable, just a capable person who can
Why
do
the fuck
everything.
are people even disabled at this point in time? Like, look at all the technology Star Trek can do.
Well,
Like, they can't
yes.
fix their gravity problem.
No, that part, no, but I think that part was smart that they didn't make her human, because it showed that, look, it's just her body composition is different. And she actually
Right.
feels good when she's floating around, in her quarters. Like, and that
That
kind
was
of
a
goes
good
back.
scene too. Like the floating sex scene. Such a
No, it
good
was
one.
nice. It's like, I think that was Bashir's first pussy on DS9. I think
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
his first
Probably
confirmed
his first
lay.
pussy ever. Actually.
Hmm, might have been his
Yeah.
first confirmed lay. So
Yeah.
good for him. But that part I kind of like, that they were smart enough at least to do that. Like, let's make her living in anti-gravity, or not anti-gravity, but no gravity, an essential part of her being. And it kind of goes back to the other episode we talked about tonight, the Dax one, where
Hmm.
she just felt completely not herself without this trill there. And that becomes an issue for her. It's like, okay, I love what you're doing for me, but if I do this, I can't go back to my planet. And dude, part of my essential being is being able to float around, like that.
Hmm.
I feel so that part was smart. If it were a human, then I think I would have been like, yeah, I think we have the technology to fix that. And oh my God, tonight I got Discovery on my mind, because the fans are such assholes, man. But there's a actor in Star Trek Discovery. He's played a couple roles now. He's like a Klingon. He's this, that, and the third. And he was in the third season of Star Trek Discovery in a wheelchair because in real life he has multiple sclerosis. So they wanted to give
Well,
him a nice send off, and they put him in a wheelchair. And folks were like, "Oh my God, how come they have a wheelchair in the 20 whatever? What I guess they're in the 30th century, 30 something century."
mhm.
And it's like, dude, like get over yourself. This is a really sweet thing that they did for a really special actor who gave a lot to the show thus far. And now he's in a wheelchair because in real life he's in a wheelchair. Get over it. But in if it weren't that though, aside from that very special circumstance, yeah, it would be weird to have um, a human character that was in a wheelchair so far ahead in the future. Although Pete, they haven't fixed male pattern baldness in the future,
That's
so
true. That's true. Yeah.
you never know. Maybe it's too complicated, getting people to walk. Um,
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Idiocracy, but their explanation for why the world turned stupid is that everyone was too busy trying to fix erections to solve climate change. So there you go.
that's pretty funny. I know of the movie. I actually never sat down and watched it. I know people really love it. But anyway, and then the end of this episode is just corny as hell. Where she realizes that it's my floating, it's my ability to float, and that
Yeah.
saves the day, because there's this whole B plot that I didn't really care about, where this guy's
Right.
after Quark, and then he does eventually capture him on this runabout, but Dax is there with Melora. That's her second scene with Dax, in fact, on a runabout. The first one, they're talking about relationships, which was like, okay, whatever. But then this one, they get attacked by the dude, and then who saves the day? It's Melora, realizing that, hey, floating is special. It can save the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. Yeah. She does like a Superman punch.
Yes. Oh my god, it was so corny.
Yeah, it was a bit much.
No, this whole episode was corny. That
Yeah.
was one of my. I got a note here. It says, "Wait, Klingon restaurant scene is so cheesy, but this whole episode so far is really cheesy." Uh, but yes, takeaways is that Julian gets on-screen confirmation of a
Mhm.
zero G leg. Good man.
Mhm.
I like Odo's quote here. You can tell a man's intentions by the way he walks. So that's a cool little Odo quote as he's uh, what do you call it? Dressing down or scoping out the guy that's after Quark. And no, the Klingon music. That's the best part of this, which is way better than happy Vulcan 80s synth music. And the Bajoran music, like Pete said, is the worst. And there's actually a good episode that I think is coming up where some famous musician is doing
Yeah,
a
that I
resonance.
watched that tonight. I watched that
Okay,
tonight.
he's doing the resonance, and Korg is like, this guy is killing my business. Like, get
Yeah,
away.
he's like nobody's drinking, nobody's gambling.
Yes, but at least the guy seems to understand because Quark talks to him. He's like, okay, so I'll try to play some
Yeah, he's
more
like
upbeat
vary
music.
up your repertoire a bit.
Anyway, so guys, we went a little long tonight, but we had a lot of episodes to get through because it's a long damn season. It's 26 episodes. Um, so let's do our skip watch, Pete. Homecoming, the season opener.
Oh my goodness, yes, definite watch.
For me
Good
too,
stuff.
that's a definite watch. And I guess we can just say the Circle and the Siege are definite watches,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean the whole arc, it's
Yeah.
amazing. It's amazing.
And then what about Invasive Procedures, where
Um,
Dax gets her
I'm
slug
gonna
taken out?
yeah, I'm gonna say watch just because it is so confounding. Like it's not necessarily a good episode, but it does raise questions. It is interesting, and it is a Dax episode, and she's pretty fucking cute. So, yeah, I would give a watch to Invasive Procedure even.
I'm with you. I give this a definite watch. I think it raises some of these issues that the episode Dax raised, except that it does it a little bit better as far as giving Jadzia stuff to do and stuff to consider. And Terry Farrell is able to, show her acting chops a little bit better. And we do get some awesome
Yeah, she's
synchro
different.
moments.
She's different. You don't normally see her
Yeah,
be that
yeah.
different.
No, for me, it's like a sister episode to season one's Dax, but not perfect, but it manages to touch on these topics a little bit better than the episode Dax did. And then Pete fell asleep with the Cardassians.
Yeah, so I gotta go skip on this because I did skip it, and I apparently didn't miss much.
Yeah, I gotta go skip, and I wish I didn't because it starts out so well. I mean,
It did.
the whole premise I thought was so cool, but then it just devolves into this whole like what? Like Golden Cat wanted to do what? And he planned this like 20 years ago, and how did he know that this kid was gonna be found? And anyway, there's like a whole lot of shit that needs to happen within a 12 or no, not even 12, because the kid's like 18 or something. He looks
Yeah,
old. There's a lot that needs to go down exactly right for Golden Cot's plan to work from like 100 years ago.
but at
So
least it didn't work, right? So
it didn't work because Golden
yeah,
Cot would have been embarrassed in the end. He walks out of the tribunal when what's his name, Bashir and Garrick uh, show the real story. What really happened is that the kid was stolen from Terek Nor, and he wasn't left behind on Cardassia as Gul Dukat wanted it to be. That's what the story Gul Dukat wanted, but it's not what happened. And the last one we did here is Melora.
well, I'm gonna go watch on this one simply because this is like the only Star Trek scene that I have ever shared on my Facebook, which is the Klingon restaurant, man. Like, is it a good episode? It's okay. It's okay. But the Klingon restaurant is fucking gold. Watch it for that.
I know, and I wish I could say skip on this one. I'm the opposite. The other one I said I wish I could say watch, and this one I want to say skip, but I'm with Pete. Just based on the Klingon restaurant, and there's some funky anti-gravity sex going on.
Yeah, and
Uh,
Bashir getting laid too.
yeah,
That's
Bashir
important.
getting laid, but technically, like, just it's a bad episode. It's
It's not
cheesy.
that great. It's not that great. But
Oh, I
man,
don't
it's
like
got
it.
some good scenes.
This is one that I didn't remember, but as soon as I saw her coming in with the wheelchair, I was like, oh, it's this episode with this bitch, man. Like,
Right.
that's the only thing that came back to mind when I saw it. I was like, oh no, it's that episode of this fucking bitch. And it was like she's just unlikable. It's not well written. They're trying to get a message across about handicapped folks, and it's in the most backhanded way. Like
Yeah.
nothing really works in this episode other than the friendliest Klingon, like the Klingon you want to drink
Yeah.
blood wine with,
Yeah.
you know?
And
Uh,
rock. You gotta love
yes.
rock.
And the whole idea of having some hot anti-gravity sex, who wouldn't be down for that? And she is
Yeah.
cute, this alien girl. So good for Bashir, good for him. He gets over Dax real quick after that.
Yeah, but he's just not getting any for a long time, I suspect.
Yeah, she friend zones him. Anyway, guys, that's it for tonight. Next week we'll be looking at some more Ferengis and
Hmm.
etc. etc. And that's it. I'm about to go to bed. It was great talking to y'all. I feel a little better. I thought I was getting a cold, but talking Star Trek is getting me out of that. Okay? Bye.
All right, cheers, people.
And speaking of, oh, we're not off the air yet, or are we? Oh, now we are.